It's always the right time to buy. We have a long-term view on this. I think that this is the decade of Bitcoin. Last decade was the first decade of Bitcoin, and it reached multi-$100 billion by March of 2020. But I think the pandemic catalyzed the next phase of growth and caused it to mature and come to the attention of institutional investors. And so I think the coming decade is the decade when institutions, corporations, governments, and the like begin to adopt Bitcoin as a digital asset. 6 months ago, there was no inflation in sight, and we speculated that it might get to 2%, and when it did, the Fed would do something. Then they changed the expectation to they would do nothing until it got over 2% for a long period of time. In the last month, I think it's now 5%. And so we found inflation by CPI standards. And so institutions have reason to be concerned about inflation. Between that and the commodity inflation, which is rampant, I think Paul Tudor Jones' message is a good one for Bitcoin. He's saying that he's upping his allocation from 1 or 2% to 5%. That's great. And I think if you combine it with the latest China news, the hash rate on the network is down to 138 exahash, and there was a minus 5% difficulty adjustment down last period, and there's a targeted minus 4.9% difficulty adjustment coming. I think the implication is a lot of China hash rate that's running on dirty coal is being turned off and decommissioned. So there's a surge in the energy mix toward renewables just in the past 2 weeks. And I think that once we sort out what that means, we'll conclude that the network is migrating to the US. The network is decentralizing further. The difficulty rate has dropped, and that's great news for every existing Bitcoin miner outside of China. And for anybody that wanted to see Bitcoin become more sustainable and more carbon neutral, we just saw 30 exahash, which is 20% of the network, which presumably was the coal burning 20% of the network in China, come off the grid. And so there's really, really interesting and positive developments here, I think, for everybody in the Bitcoin. People are very charged up about what's going on in El Salvador. That was a big highlight. I think the developments in Nigeria and Tanzania are highlights. I think that the news this weekend out of Lebanon, that Lebanese have lost 90% of the value of their local currency, and their dollar amounts or dollar balances are frozen by the banking system. I think that punctuates just how important Bitcoin is to the entire world. Everybody feels like this is the idea whose time has come, and we have an opportunity to spread property rights and human rights to 8 billion people around the world. What's clear is lots and lots of nations around the world are struggling, and they need some kind of reserve asset like Bitcoin. The United States dollar is spreading everywhere, and El Salvador lost their own currency after the last civil war, and they were using the US dollar as their medium of exchange. But they need a store of value, and they also need a way to move billions of dollars cross-border without paying exorbitant remittance fees. And so I think what we can see in El Salvador is the future model of the 21st century digital economy, and that would be billions of people with a digital wallet on a mobile device. And one of the things in the wallet is going to be a digital currency like the US dollar, probably running on a stable coin. And the other thing that's going to be in the wallet is a digital asset like Bitcoin. Bitcoin gives everybody in the world, and especially in El Salvador, the ability to save their money in an asset that's going to appreciate in value over time. And it's also providing a worldwide settlement and synchronization network that allows anybody in the world to plug their website, their mobile application, their bank into the global monetary network, and they're not forced to pay a 10% fee to move money back and forth or to wait days or weeks. And so El Salvador is the model, and the enthusiasm, the excitement here is because there are billion people, 1.7 billion people that are unbanked. They need the same thing: an Android phone that costs $50, a bank in their pocket, and assets that go up in value. I think that this decade is going to see the explosion of the US dollar as the reserve currency of the world. It'll be the digital currency that'll be on every iPhone and every Android phone in every country in Africa and Asia and South America. And it'll move on Bitcoin rails. The Bitcoin Open Monetary Protocol is what allows the US dollar to spread to billions of people. In an inflationary environment, money breaks down into two forms. There's a medium of exchange, we'll call it the currency, and that'll be controlled by governments, and the US currency is going to be the most powerful one. And then you need a store of value, and that's an asset, and Bitcoin is the most powerful store of value on earth. I mean that the US dollar is going to spread to billions and billions of people on crypto rails. And in order for it to go to everybody in South America and Africa and Asia, it's going to need to be plugged into an open digital monetary network, and that network is Bitcoin. So oftentimes people think that these things are in conflict. They're not. What you're going to see is the US dollar and BTC, both of them spreading to billions of people, because the world needs both. They need a medium of exchange that's compatible with payment networks and is high speed. All of these are indicators that the entire world's beginning to realize that Bitcoin is the most powerful technology of the decade, and they're just noticing now. But the truth is, what they realize is that there's 8 billion people on the planet. Eventually they'll all have a mobile device. They're all going to need a currency on the device, and they're going to need an asset on the device. As the world comes alive, they're going to realize that the only way that they can deploy digital currency to everybody on Earth is with a digital asset and an open monetary protocol, and that is Bitcoin. I do think that Bitcoin is in fact the most powerful, dominant digital property on Earth, and I think that it's essential if you're going to spread digital currency and digital assets to billions of people.